All right. Well, I wanted to welcome everybody. Thanks so much for volunteering your time and energy for our middle school and high school students to complete their science fair projects this year and prepare for the county fair. For those of you returning, I think most of you are returning. We deeply appreciate your continued dedication to the students. And I know we might have a few. I think Dan mentioned someone's that's a first timer here. Thank you so much for stepping up and putting yourselves out there. It does mean so much to us. We do know, and I do know this from my years past, that the science fair process can feel very complicated at first. But once you get into the rhythm and once you get this first year down, it will become second nature. And you are never alone in this. The SRC, all the members of the SRC are here every step of the way to guide and support you as best we can. So reach out to us at any time and we'll help you. We can try to stop into school if you need help, anything along those lines. We are definitely excited for a fantastic year ahead and looking forward to a fabulous 2026 North Museum Science and Engineering Fair.
Excellent. Thank you, Marion. We appreciate your leadership and helping us as our fair director for 2026. My name is Dan Daniker. I'm the coordinator here at the North Museum for the Science and Engineering Fair. And this meeting, we're recording it, we have it live, and we're doing a Zoom so that it meets your needs and can help you as you prepare to register your students and have them compete in NMSEF 2026. Where we're going to run the meeting is I'm going to go through things almost a little faster for those of you that are experienced. Those of you that are new, you may be maybe jotting down, writing things like, well, what's an SRC meeting? Do I have to be at that meeting? And when we get through the speed version of this meeting, those people that know what's going on probably are going to sign off. And then I will go back and go through everything in much greater detail. It's just, I think, an efficient use of time. And that way our veteran adult sponsors aren't staying here till 4:45 like everyone else. One of the key things we have to try and help remove the barriers of participation in the science fair is our communication tool. And that is our website. So this is the Science and Engineering Fair website, our winners and videos and so forth. But down here, it has all of the information that you need to participate in the science fair. The first you've already achieved, many of you, the teacher registration. That is simply a Google form. You click on that and it takes you out and moves you to the registration. Timeline, I'll be going through that towards the end, but the timeline is when things are due and how they are due. The entry form is required on each project. So when you click on the entry form, this is what comes up. This is simply names and schools. This goes on the top of every project. So there's all of the forms, and stapled on top of every project is the entry form. Now we have two divisions. We have the senior division, which is grades 9 through 12. And we have the junior division, which are grades 6 through 8. Those are in both Lancaster and Lebanon counties. So any student in public schools, private schools, homeschooled, it doesn't matter. If you're a student in our two-county region and you want to participate in the science fair, we got your back. So we will help you if we have to work as your own organization that reviews the projects and so forth. We will help you. So this is the entry form. The key with this, of course, is try to give us the best project title that you can. We know they change. That's okay. And then select, using the little check boxes here, what category you think the project is in. Now, it can move. We do move them based on as we review, as we look at the project. So that's okay. But give us an initial what project category you think you're going to be in. Here's one of the changes for 2026. In the junior division, we will not have plant science. It'll be called botany because plant sciences are in senior division, and it's just a little confusing to have plant sciences and plant science. They seem so similar. They are, but the grades are different. So we're going to have botany at the junior division. So this is the official entry form. You only fill out the top because the bottom is actually used at the SRC evening when we review the project for safety. So when you get your projects back, It might be approved, which means you can begin working right away. It could be conditionally approved, which means the student can begin working right away, but there was a minor problem. Maybe a signature was missing. There were maybe 3 references and you need 5 references. So up here, you'll see what the checklist would be saying, hey, the problem was this, and then the person would write down in the comments how you fix that problem. Conditionally approved projects can easily become approved because all you have to do is scan this top sheet and the fix. So let's say you needed 5 references instead of the 3 the student submitted. The student puts together the 5 APA listing. You scan this signed SRF entry form and you put the fix. I'm going to get that as an email and say, oh, okay, what's the issue? Oh, they needed 5 sources. There are 5 sources. Boom, approved. It's very simple. It's all done through email. If the project is denied, it'll be indicated, and you'll probably have a lot more text here explaining what the issue is. Maybe it was a microorganism at the junior level, which we only allow K-12 bacteria to be used at the junior level. So maybe you had a BSL-1 or a BSL-2 bacteria at the junior level, that would be denied. And you'd have to resubmit via email, scan the entire project with the fix, so whatever that fix would be. Likewise, middle level projects may not use vertebrate animals or human subjects, even surveys. They can't do that. The only way a middle school project or junior level project can use a vertebrate animal is what's called observational. Best example I can give you, I had a student do whether or not cows truly can predict the weather by laying down before a storm. So the student had their parents drive them around Lancaster County, and they took a percentage of the cows laying down and whether it rained. At no time were they feeding the cows, touching the cows, getting near the cows. It was purely observational, because as soon as you have to take care of care and feeding, then it becomes a vertebrate animal project. For the senior division, here's a change. You have to have a vertebrate animal form if you're going to deal with an octopus. I know they don't have a backbone, but the rules state now you have to, because they have shown tendencies of intelligence and pain receptors. So they have to have a vertebrate animal form, even though they don't have a backbone. So little change there. So this is the entry form. It goes on top of everything. You fill out the top, and the SRC at the review night fills out the bottom. Back at the website, we have all the other forms that you may need. Now, at the end of my presentation tonight, I'm actually going to go through those forms and show you what they are. There are no major changes to the forms for the 2026 year. So if you filled out these forms last year, you're good to go. You're good to go. Back to the website. We also have items here. We'll have this meeting recorded here. We have our categories, our rule wizard, which is a link right to ISEF, because the North Museum Science and Engineering Fair is an ISEF affiliate. We use their rules, and their rule wizard helps you determine what forms you would need based on the type of project that you have. We have the actual rule book, so it's just easy. It's one-stop shopping for you and your students to gather the information. We also then took the time to create, and it's a little dark, Mr. Homan was picking on my dungeon-esque look here, but what we did was we created a series of short vignettes explaining how to complete each of the forms that you can use, or you could actually send to your students and they can use if they're working remotely, or you have, let's say, a class period and you want them to be able to see those things. How do you fill out the entry form? How do you fill out form 1 and 1A, 1B, 1C? How do you write the research plan? And it's all there in those videos. Probably the hardest thing you're going to achieve or accomplish is having the students pick a project. That's one of the hardest things to have them do. So there's science buddies and a whole wide range of other areas to help the students take almost an interest survey and participate in the fair. Now, with the caveat of understanding no vertebrate animals, no surveys, and no bacteria other than K-12 at the junior level, the students can participate in their categories. They get to choose it. We do not dictate which category the student. So it really can delve into student interest. The website also has, and this is new this year, a judges page. And many of the teachers were asking, well, how do the judges score? What does the rubric look like? How are the judges actually looking at the students at Millersville for the fair? So we wanted to provide that, so it's an open book. Transparency, complete transparency, that you can then advise the students on the rubric and the interview and the conversation that is had. So those are the key things from the website: the student registration forms, rules, videos, and judges page. The timeline, which I sent everybody in the email and is available on the website, is simple. Teacher registration is open now. We were asked if we could please open the registration for students on October 1st, so everything wasn't so confusing. It gives the teachers a little bit more time to work with the students. So it's a similar Google form, and that will go live October 1st on the website. We ask you to work with the students and complete all of the forms as you can for the proposal, including, of course, the very important research proposal of what it's going to look like. Staple it all together, and then bring it to the museum here at 400 College Avenue. You can bring it in a big folder for your school. Maybe you have 1 or 2 students only at your school. That's fine as well. Maybe you have a couple of teachers, like the middle school is going to bring them over. Well, the high school can bring them over as well. And we just have a big bin here at the front desk of the North Museum. So as they come in, they can come in a week before, they can come in that day, October 24th. I will be here. The museum traditionally closes at 3, but I will be here till 5 p.m. And you can bring those in and turn in the student proposals. I will, and along with help hopefully from the SRC, place those proposals into categories based on what the student has selected, so that on the 28th of October from 4 to 7, we can review them for safety. Here's a star you got to put in your calendar. It's an all hands on deck. We do need a representative from each school or entity that's participating for several reasons. We all join here at the museum and we evaluate the projects, of course, recusing yourself from projects that are from your own school, and you're simply reviewing them for safety. Again, and many have heard this story. My favorite story was a student wanted to be in a car and throw basketballs at the driver to see if it distracted them while driving. Well, the answer is no. You can't do that. That's not safe. So that would be denied. So what we would do is we review the projects. Beauty of having someone from the school there is if we're missing a simple signature or we don't quite understand it, we can say, hey, is anybody here from Warwick High School? Oh, yeah, you are. Can I ask, what's this? And we can fix things right there that evening. When we're done with the review, we make a quick copy of that entry form so we know the disposition of each project. And the other beauty of having someone there from each school is you can take all of the projects home with you that night and distribute them, and the students may begin research the next day. As payment, we try to bring in food for you. Last year we had Frisco's Chicken. I've been lobbying for that because it was so good. But we try to bring in catering for your dinner as you work and read through the projects with the other members of the Safety and Review Committee. So you get all the projects back on the 28th. The kids can start, most of them, the 29th. What if we did have some denied or conditionally approved? Well, we try to get those fixed all via email, scanning and sending to the North Museum Science Fair email by the 5th of December so that I can get those to our SRC so they can get reviewed and back into your hands so the students can do research. Now, I want to say something very clear. We want to help you as teachers. Maybe these timelines don't help with your school. Maybe it's, I can't get them to you on the 24th. Or maybe you have a student that's going to try and start a project here in September. A favorite example of that is they want to try to apply various home chemicals to mulch, like vinegar or olive oil, and see if the mulch keeps its color through the winter. Well, you have to get it onto the mulch and out in the weather here in September so you have time to take your data. So what we've created is called the rolling SRC. That simply means that as you have a project and you need it to be reviewed, you contact me via email, and either I get it from you physically or we do it via email, and I send that out to one of our SRC members to review them when we get them. Now, of course, we try to do most of them the evening of the 28th of October. That's ideal. But to remove the barrier of participation, we will accommodate you and your student schedule. So we have a rolling SRC that approves even up into January. We've had some approved. But we do try to get them by the 28th of October, then all of the fixes by the 5th of December. Now, if you send it to me the 10th of December and say, hey, I need a little more time, I'm going to work with you. Our goal is student participation. We will help you. We will get those students' projects reviewed. On or about the 5th of January, I will be sending the adult sponsor, that's the lead teacher, an email saying, okay, this is who we think is participating in the fair. Only the approved projects can participate. Any conditionally approved or denied that haven't had it fixed can't participate. Now, again, if you send me an email on the 5th and say, hey, I have a student, they're almost done, can I get it to you in 2 days? Absolutely. We want to work with you. The real cutoff point that I really have to start getting final counts is February 2nd, because I need to start allotting judges. I need to start making the map for Millersville to put up tables. So if I have a date that's fairly firm, it's February 2nd. I really have to have who's going to participate. So I send you the allotment. This is who we think's participating. And I'll be honest with you, it's going to be all your students. We have a directive from the museum's director that says everybody that wants to participate and has an approved project can. And I want to be clear, we are a free fair. We are one of the few fairs in the state of Pennsylvania that are free. Now, unfortunately, we don't have a key sponsor right now. The Arconic Foundation has sponsored us for the last 2 years. We thank them. But they only really ever sponsor for 1 year. They did ours 2 in a row, which was an amazing thing. But as we are looking for a key sponsor, we are going to try to maintain this as a free fair. One of the things we might have to do when we get to NMSEF, which is in Phoenix, Arizona, there's a tremendous cost with transportation and hotels. We may not be able to do that if we do not have a key sponsor. Now, our hope is we have it. And Scott Downs here at the museum is working feverishly to find those sponsors and to make the threshold that we need. But I just wanted to be upfront with you that we're looking to find that key sponsor and funding. So as the final count comes in on the 2nd, we have our judges training in February, and then setup begins. How this works is they're at Millersville University. Millersville is on spring break, so we don't have to worry about parking. We don't have to worry about a lot of students on campus. We're in the Student Memorial Center gymnasium called the Marauder Courts. And students simply bring their project in. They're approved. They walk into a senior division line or a middle level junior division line, introduce themselves. We check that they're approved, collect any forms that we need to collect. They get a badge. They set up their project. Now, you can bring them in. The parent can bring them in. Even a friend can bring them in, because we know students are busy. They may have practice. They could be in a play. They could have something, a meet or a game. We understand that. But somebody needs to set up their project, make sure it's safe. And then the next morning on the 12th, that's by the way, 3 to 8 p.m. at Millersville on the 11th. On the 12th at 8 a.m., the judges come in. We had about 80 judges from the STEM community this past year, and they review the projects and abstracts until noon. At noon, the students are released onto the floor. Traditionally, schools will bring a bus or a van. Now, students can be brought by their parents, but we do need to have a teacher or adult chaperone on site for students there. If you have a student represented, there has to be a teacher chaperone. We provide a room for you. You can grade papers or read the newspaper, but while the students are on the floor being judged. They're judged from noon till 4, and then between 4 and 6:30, we usually have a variety of activities for them, including pizza. We hopefully will be able to do that again. And then the awards assembly is the 12th, that evening at 6:30, right in the Marauder Courts. It traditionally is over by 8 p.m., and the students pack up, pick up their projects, head on home. The top 2 projects from the senior division, only senior division, are invited to participate in NMSEF. That would be the grand champion and the senior champion. And hopefully we'll be able to send them to NMSEF this year with sponsorship. Last year, we had a great showing at the NMSEF, which is in Columbus, Ohio. In fact, one of our Lancaster participants, Ethan Albright, was able to gain 3rd place in his division, which was quite an honor. So we really had a great showing at NMSEF this past year. So that's the timeline. Again, we want to accommodate. We want to help. If you have questions or you have concerns, lines of communication, keep them open. Email is best. The Science Fair at North Museum email is the one that works best for me. I monitor that daily so that we can keep those lines of communication. If you have questions, if you have concerns, if you need me to come to your school and meet with you, if you want me to meet with students, if you have a team of teachers you want me to present at a department meeting or a PD, I am happy to do that to help you prepare your students for Science Fair. So, as we move on, I'll ask Marion, did we have any questions in the chat? No, no questions? Okay, good.
No, sorry. Forgot I turned it off.
Hopefully I did okay. Well, I see people on here who have been with the fair for a very, very long time, several fair directors. So what I'm going to say is if you do not need to stay on, if you know everything, as I've said, we've cleared everything up. We're going to release those teachers, and then I'll stay on board and go through all the forms. I apologize. I did want to say one thing. I am so sorry. For our people that are very familiar with everything, I want to be very clear about references. The middle level is going to be the same. We can use the blanket reference stating like all photos on the board by the contestant. That's okay. But at the senior level, that's 9 through 12, NMSEF is bringing down very hard that each photo, graph, or table has to have a reference where it came from. If it was produced in Excel, if it was student created, if it was from the internet, if it was from a published study, it needs the granular level even to the page that it was on. So the senior level has to have very clear delineation and references. Junior level, because they do not go to NMSEF, we're still going to allow the blanket statement of all like photos by contestant. And the only other thing that came up is we are going to allow the senior division, because of the in vogue now is the much larger printed project that still fits in the parameters but sits on the board flat, or like an easel. We're going to go that the junior division, most of them are trifold boards. So we're going to go 2 projects per table. At the senior division, we're going to try to map it out to go 3 projects per 2 tables to accommodate that larger size. And we'll start to see if the middle levels go to the larger size, but we didn't have any last year, but we had a lot in the senior division. So just a minor thing. All right. If there are no questions, but if there are, please send me an email and I will help you as best I can. But those of you that have been on for a while and have participated, by all means, you can log off, but we're going to keep the recording going, and I'm going to go over the individual forms just so everybody feels comfortable with them. Okay?
Okay. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good night.
See you, Jen.
Okay. After the entry form, the first form is the sponsor checklist. This is completed by the teacher and it gives an idea to the student based on what they want to do, what forms they need to complete. So the adult sponsor, which is traditionally the teacher, checks these items that if it is a high school vertebrate project, they're going to need the vertebrate animals. If they're doing a survey, they're going to need a human subject form. If they're using a chemical that is dangerous, potentially hazardous, they're going to need that form. So this form indicates to ISEF and us at the North Museum that the adult sponsor read the student's project, has advised them what they need to do, and has signed it. Now, let me give you a little time saving. If you download the blank PDFs, put all of your name and information in here, like email, phone, and so forth, then save it and send it to the student, you're going to save yourself typing that over and over and over and over and over again. So that's a nice way to save your time. So this is signed by the adult sponsor and checklist to really give the student a thought. Well, okay, what forms am I going to need?
Yeah, what I do for that to save time is I do this for all the forms. I put all my generic information in all the check boxes that would be the same for every single student I check off. Anything that's individual, like a kid's working with bacteria, I sit down with them one-on-one and I say, okay, because you're doing bacteria, you're going to check box, this one and this one, check this off. And they type their name, they type their title in it. It saves so much time, especially because then your name is printed right, your address is printed right, all those things. I only leave their name and title for them to type in, and I give them their titles printed so that they know what their title is, and it's always the same on all their forms. So I download all these, I pre-fill in everything on all the forms as much as I can, and then I upload them. We have Schoology. I know you guys use Google Classroom at Warwick. Are you both from Warwick?
LMPH.
Okay, so I know Steve uses Google Classroom, but you can upload them wherever the kids can get them and then they can fill in, or you can sit down with them one-on-one, like you need to check this box, this box, this box. I mean, at the middle school level, you're not going to have as many boxes to check off, and then they can print them out as needed once they're ready to go. But it's going to save you in the long run if you do that. So
So
it seems like
nice
it's time consuming, but I do it every year.
Then we have checklist 1A. This is what the student writes down indicating their school address, phone, and so forth. Now, just to be clear, to make sure everybody knows what they're looking for, this tentative start date, and it should be everybody's going to have pre-approval. The tentative start date is October 29th, because that's the day after our SRC review. This down here, where it actually says what, number 7, the year's experimentation isn't filled out until afterwards. So it's really number 5 you need to put in for our year this year, October 29th. Then you have to indicate where the student is doing the research. Is it at school? Well, if it's at school, you don't have to fill anything else out. If it's home, you don't have to fill anything else out. But if it's in the field or a research institution, you need to provide as close a location as you can. For example, if it's a stream study, you need to say along the Conestoga River in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. We know that you're not going to be able to give all the spots, but you give as much as you can in that description. So in the field, in a research institution, and we'll talk about how a research institution is going to need some other information as well. So then we get into actually what does the student produce to explain the project? Well, many teachers make this a research paper almost, that there's a rationale or a purpose. There is a research question, hypothesis, or engineering goal. Then detailed procedures. The procedures have to be sufficient enough that we can read it and understand it to approve it for safety. Believe it or not, we have received proposals that say, I'm going to do an experiment that, and that's all they wrote. Okay, what experiment are you going to do that tests, golf balls? You have to explain how you're going to do that experiment. Then talk about any risks or safety, and then a 5-resource bibliography. We prefer APA, but it's whatever we're happy even if they just provide us the website. 5 resources. Now, if they're doing a human subject or vertebrate animals, there's more forms, and we'll get to those in a minute. Form 1B is an approval form where the student signs it and the parent or guardian says, yes, I agree my child can participate. But also here, section 2A, this is not the teacher, but someone from the school, maybe a department chair, a principal, another teacher, your colleague. If you don't have somebody, then you can, I'm losing power here for some reason, you can contact us and we can serve in that function for you. What this does is it lets us know that someone else reviewed your project. So this needs to have a signature by someone from your school. This is signed at the bottom by the science fair director after the fair is over. So now if you're a regulated institute, if you're going to Johnson & Johnson, or you're working at Eurofins or Millersville University, you have to have this completed. It's a regulated institution form, and it has to be clearly delineated and then signed by the person at the institution that is overseeing the research. Many times you're going to need a qualified scientist. So if you're dealing with a bacteria, or if you're going to like a Eurofins or Johnson & Johnson, they would complete this and detail their degrees that make them the qualified scientist. Now, I want to be clear, they do not have to have a PhD or some other doctorate level to be a qualified scientist. If you are going to be working at a shooting range, a rifle range, for a shooting sports project, the person would indicate their range certificates that allow them to work and run that range. Maybe they're an EMT. Maybe they're the school psychologist. That would be a qualified scientist. If they explain how to do the project to someone, a designated supervisor, the qualified scientists have to write that they explained to the designated supervisor how to safely conduct the experiment. All projects are asked to complete a risk assessment form, Form 3. This just means the student thought through the project to make sure that it is safe. Key things that get projects denied if they're doing a stream study or collecting water samples, if they're doing and building a project or building something and using power tools, you must state under adult supervision. So clearly indicated under adult supervision saves a lot of problems and issues later on. Then the human participant form, it has to be reviewed by the school, let's say a school psychologist. And if you're doing a survey, you have to provide a copy of the survey to make sure that it is not harmful. You're also going to provide a copy, and we have examples of the form that people will fill out to say that they are allowed to participate if they're under the age of 18. The human consent form. Vertebrate animal form, you're going to need a veterinarian to review the project and be making sure that there is a safe for the organisms that are participating, including the cephalopods. And there are multiple forms depending on if you're doing the project and where you're doing the project. Likewise, with potentially hazardous biological agents, these could be chemicals that are dangerous, or microbes that are BSL 1. If you are lucky to be one of the 2 schools, I believe, in Lancaster County that have BSL 2, you can do